Scaling your business. A lot of people ask me about how do you scale your business? Well, my next guest has scaled the business in a way that a lot of people would like to hear more about, and I'm sure you will as well. Stay tuned for this episode. Welcome to another episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I'm your host, Alan Berg, speaker, author, sales trainer, website reviewer, here to help you in your wedding and event business sell more, profit more, and have more fun doing it. Enjoy this episode. Welcome back to another edition of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. I have a very special dialogue guest here for you today on my scaling series, and it is Eric Maas from Complete Weddings. Eric, how you doing?
Good. How are you, Alan?
I am great. I can't wait to get back out to Omaha and be there with you and the complete team. We missed that last year as we missed so many other things. So as I had told you, I'm doing this series on scaling businesses. Now, scaling a business could be scaling up, could be scaling down. And for a lot of people, it's just adding more people is scaling their business. For some people, it's adding another location. Could be adding another line, another service to your business. And you've done all of that and franchised your business on top of that. So this is something very unique in the wedding and event industry. It's not unique in the world because that's what people do is expand businesses through franchising. So give us a little bit of a background on the beginnings of Complete, where it went through, when did you start expanding, how did you start expanding, and when did you decide to go into franchising?
Sure. Complete actually started, I'm a second generation owner. So my father actually started the business in 1974. He came back from Vietnam and where he bought equipment, which was less expensive to buy in Vietnam than it was here. So he came back, and at the time most people had either a cake and punch reception in the basement of a church, or they would have a band, right? So for those that didn't have the funds or the means to have a big reception, it was just in the basement. So my father's sister was getting married, and she asked him to come and play some music with the new equipment that he brought back. So when he came back, he did the wedding reception, and get this, it was on a reel-to-reel player. There's no digital music. There was no equipment made for DJs in 1974. So it was on a reel-to-reel player. So there was no requests. You got what you got. So he
wait. So how did he get the music onto the reel-to-reel?
Recorded it, at the time. I think it was from albums.
From albums. So he took the songs off of album tracks, put them onto the reel-to-reel, and that was it, front to back. There was no jumping around.
There was no jumping around. Luckily the expectations at the time were very, there weren't large expectations. They just were like, play music and people dance. And right. My father has a fun personality. It's very outgoing. So he had a microphone and he got on there and did fun things. And so he did that. Some people were there that were getting married, wanted to have more events. And so he was working his way through college on the GI Bill, and he was making extra money DJing on the weekends. So that's how it started. And then
hang on a second. So he brought this equipment back from Vietnam. What made him bring the equipment back if he wasn't doing stuff like this, or was he doing stuff like this before?
Oh, just for his own personal use. He was in a band. He actually was in a band before he went to Vietnam. So he loved music, played guitar. He could play his guitar behind his head, still can. That's pretty cool. Beatles stuff, and that's the kind of stuff he played. So he had an interest in music. So that's why he bought the auto. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So very familiar story in the beginning. You did one wedding for free, relative, friend, whatever. Somebody else saw it. Hey, could you do that for me? How much does it cost? And you're like, I could get paid for this, right? Putting yourself through college, doing it's people listening in here, you could be a photographer, it's the same story. A videographer, it's the same story. Florist, you love doing flowers. Could you make me centerpieces? Right? It's the same story there. Okay, so now he's DJing, doing this in college. And when did it become more of a real business?
So he had some friends in college, and he started booking enough where, like you said, other DJ companies and multi-system ops out there, what they do is they had a bunch of dates that they already booked on. So he had some of his friends come in and started doing multiple events. And then some of them were interested in doing it. And we started one. So he had a manager in Lincoln, he had a manager in Kansas City, and a guy that went down to Dallas. They all managed businesses. And that kind of was happening between 74 and 80. And then in 1983, in the 80s, franchising was a big deal. So these people wanted to feel as they owned their own business, but obviously wanted to use the same model that they came from. So they decided to use franchising to expand their business.
Okay. So initially, were they working for your dad, or right?
Correct.
So
They
when
were
they went,
managers. They were
they were
managers.
managers, right? So this was, and it was called Complete at the time.
Complete music.
Complete Music. So you're in Omaha. Dad started in Omaha. Then you had Lincoln. You had Dallas. So these people were working as managers for him. Now they wanted to continue doing that, but they're like, you know what? We like this model. We like what we're doing here. How do we continue doing that? Because it's not our name. It's your name, right? It's your dad's business name.
Correct.
And franchising, again, 80s, it was a big thing there. So um, did they come to him? Is that how the idea is? Like, how can we do this? Or did he say to them, oh, how about you become a franchise?
Well, so when they went, they were basically all of them were in college. So as they started to graduate, they were looking for opportunities, and one of them wanted to move to Dallas. Was the farthest one. That was, I think, the second managed or second area that was actually started. Lincoln's very close to Omaha. That was an
Right.
easy,
Right.
right? So actually, Ron Sexton is his name. He's still the franchise owner down there. He started in 1983 and he's still there
Wow.
in Dallas. And so they wanted their independence. They wanted to be able to do what they wanted to do, and obviously that liability of having to worry about someone's event down in Dallas, without the person running it have skin in the game. That's not their company. That was very uncomfortable for my dad. So at that point, franchising made sense, because then it's their business, it's their opportunity. They're doing what they're doing. We're just providing, the rails to run on, like I said, and the manuals and kind of what to do. So the standard operating procedures.
All right, so let's stop there, because that's exactly what I want to talk about. The difference between a franchise and Ron going down to Dallas and just starting his own business, Ron the DJ, right? Ron the Dallas DJ. The difference between that is what you provide as a franchisor. And I've been a franchisee, and I've worked for a franchisor in Omaha, by the way, as you
Yeah.
know. So I know both sides of that as well. So what is the advantage to the franchisee that you provide that they wouldn't have on their own?
Sure. I mean, that's a very valid question. And usually we have a process when someone calls and inquires about buying a franchise. We go through that process, because that's the first thing people always ask. Why in the world would I pay? There's a percentage of franchise fee that you pay to be part of your system. Why would I give up any of my money to do what you're doing?
Right.
And it's interesting, because a lot of times people might take it that a franchisor thinks that they have all the wisdom in the world, and that support office or that corporate office is the one just making ideas and pushing it out to everybody. But the reality is, it's all the fails that we've had, all of the times that we did something wrong, or we tried an idea or tried something that failed, that we learned mostly from those opportunities. And obviously then finding out, especially where we're at today, we're in over 210 cities. And so we're able to see in those cities the things that are working today. And then we can take that information in and send it out to the franchisees in the other markets and say, here's what we're seeing in Baton Rouge. Here's what we're seeing in Orlando. This is what's working in Spokane. So that's basically when you come in. And the franchisees too, they have a community. Certainly there's communities, there's photography communities, there's DJ communities, and those are great. In our system, it's nice because it's under the same brand. There isn't, it's completely sharing the same, and they do things the same way. We're using the same CRM when we're doing things with clients and things. And then we do an annual meeting, and it really is, for us, we've tried to commit, I think with a franchise, it's important they have really good culture. And everybody throws around the word family, right? But I think really for us in the wedding industry, especially, although we're a franchise business, I think the feeling that there's a brother or sister in the industry that I can call and talk to that's with the same name, that's one of the things that we provide. But the standard operating procedures, the owner's manual, This is what you do on Monday. This is what you do on Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. There's a book called The E-Myth. I'm sure you're familiar with it.
Absolutely.
It talks about franchising and why you want to look at that as an opportunity. And it's not for
Right.
everybody. If you're a major entrepreneur and you like trying new things every weekend, franchise is probably not for you. You know, if you're
Right.
looking to fast track a business, franchising might be the right way to go.
Right, and that's what the E-Myth talks about, which is the systems. You're buying the systems, and I love the way you put that. You're buying the mistakes. I've been at your annual meeting more than once, and it is a community. It is a family, and I think part of the thing with what you have, you do have exclusivity and territory. So it's competitive in the brother, 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 sister, sister, sister way. It's not competitive because we're in the same city and we're competing for the same couples here. But you have that competition where, yeah, oh, so and so just got a sale over here in Kansas City. I'm going to get a sale in Orlando, right? And you bring each other up with that. But having been a franchisee, it is those systems. It's that turnkey where, yeah, they could learn everything that you do. They could learn CRM systems and advertising ideas and marketing ideas and upsell ideas and what products are selling better and what are not. They could learn that, but it would take them time, right? So do you want to jumpstart and get to a different place that's forward, or do you want to find your way there? And yeah, it isn't for everybody for sure. You know, there are some people that don't like that rigidity. And then there are other people that just need it. They need that guidelines there. So obviously we have Ron 1983, so we're going on what, 40 years almost? Yeah, right. We're
Mm-hmm.
getting on almost 40
Yeah.
years there. That's a long time. You have many other people that are, again, I don't see a lot of turnover with what you do, right?
Right. Yeah. We've had most of our franchise owners that started back in the day are still with us, they've stuck around for a long time. We don't have many people turn over. The
Yeah,
franchise owners don't turn over very often at all.
right. I mean, obviously, people within them. If you're a multi-system thing. So again, if you are a photographer and you're going to have other photographers, you're going to lose some. People is the one thing we can never control. Systems is the thing we can control. We can control, even competition to a certain level, right? You know what your competition is doing. You know what you could do better. You know what they do better. But people get sick. People move. People get married. People have kids. People just get tired of doing whatever. Right? Stuff happens, and you can't control that. That is always that variable in any business. That's not a franchise thing.
Right.
That's
Right.
anywhere. So, you talked about the mistakes? What are some of the mistakes that you see people making? It could be within your family, your franchise family, or just in general in the industry, since you know the industry so well. What are some of the biggest mistakes you see people making when they want to scale their business up?
Scaling up. So yeah, I think you know, doing everything yourself, not allowing yourself to pour into others, making sure that you can't be doing they say when you start up, Dave Ramsey talks about when you start a business, you're the CEO, the chief operations officer of everything. So I remember in Colorado Springs is where I started my franchise. And I remember being at an event and I had a DJ contact me right as I was doing the toasts because the amplifier was at the time when you didn't have self-powered speakers back in the day, Alan.
Yeah, yeah,
He was having a hard time. Everything else was turning on. The amplifier was. So I'm getting through the toast and then I'm on the phone, here's what you need to do. So I think really it's hard. It's not an easy transition as you scale, but to think that it's all about you. I think finding pride, one of the best things that I can say for people when they grow the businesses, I said this to a franchise owner just recently, and he was somebody that had their own business, their own DJ business, and it was a multi-system op. And he came on board with Complete, and he's part of our deal now, and he's doing a great job, and he's sharing information with us. And he's amazing. But he was DJing himself. It was a DJ service. He was DJing himself, and he came in, and it's the same thing when you sit down and they want to go and have multiple services. You're like, you really should stop DJing. It's the same thing. Like, you don't know who I am. I am amazing. I
Right.
am the DJ industry
Right.
in Kansas City or whatever city, name it here, right? And
Right.
this business can't operate unless I'm out in front of the people. And
Right.
like, well, then don't scale. That's okay. Just don't
Right.
scale unless you
I
just
think
want headaches.
But you know what? I think it comes down to I was just talking to somebody. He's a DJ and he's gotten into speaking. So he's a member of the National Speakers Association chapter. I had just spoken for this chapter in Central Florida. And I said to him, the first thing is, so why do you want to do this? Right? Why do you want to? And I've said this to DJs. Why do you want to scale your business? I remember saying this. I had a client. It was just two of them. So it was multi-system, but it was really just two of them, right? So there wasn't 10, 12, 15, whatever. And he said, you know what? I want to do 250 weddings a year. And I said, okay, why? And he said, well, I'll be seen as a bigger player in my market by the planners and stuff like that. I said, okay, why is that important? Right? And he's like, and he started to repeat the same thing again. And I said, okay, so how do you plan on getting there? Because you can't do that, just the two of you, right? Two of you can't do 250 weddings a year and have a life and live, just right. So he said, well, I turn away a lot of leads that are at a much lower price point than I charge now. So I'm going to bring somebody on at the lower price point and all this. And I said, okay, so after you advertise more, because you need to get enough leads to fill 250, and we know it's not one for one. You don't need 250 leads. You need 4 digits worth of leads, right? So you're going to spend more on advertising and marketing. You're going to maybe buy that system. You're going to have insurance. You're going to have payroll. What else do you need overhead wise? Do you need somebody to take leads now and field leads? Because now you're getting 4 digits worth of leads, right? All this stuff. I said, is there anything left over for you? Or are you just moving the money from the clients to everybody else and there's nothing left for you? And here's what I said to him. I want to feed your family, not your ego. And so many people, you've seen it, Eric, I've seen it, where it's about me. It's about the ego. It's about blowing the ego up. And it's a house of cards because there's no substance underneath that. When you move, you know what? I'll give you a story. When I was at the Knot, I had sales reps who I might want to move to a manager. And I said, will your ego allow you to have your reps make more money than you? Because their commission structure is such that they can keep going. You're on a salary plus
Oh,
incentive. Can you handle that somebody who works technically under you on the ladder is making more money than you? And not everybody can handle that, and as a business owner, everybody else gets paid.
yes.
Right. You should read Profit First. If you haven't read Profit First, definitely read Profit First by Mike McAllowitz, so you do get paid. But there, all right. So the stepping back, that person needed to learn that if they want to own a business, they have to run a business. Now, truth is, they could have said, I'm going to do 5 weddings a year, or I'm going to do 10 weddings a year. Pick the 10 that you want to do. But you can't do 50 and run the business if it's going to grow. Is it basically what you're saying there?
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. You have to go out and check on those people and see what's going on. And you have to want, like you said it right on, Alan, you have to want to run a business.
Right.
And there's an E-Myth, they talk about the dog groomer that was good at grooming dogs and went and started their own business and kept doing it and doing it. And they were okay with it the first couple of years, not making any money. But eventually when they had to bring somebody on, they weren't training them through a process. They're just like haphazardly giving them the information of what they do, hoping that they'll get somewhat close to what they're doing. So, yeah, I
Right.
think the approach is that you're starting a business,
Right.
and not just a DJ company that's going to be the biggest and best. And because of your ego thing, I totally agree. It's there's a profitability piece there, and you have to love what you do for sure. But it is you're taking off a technician hat and you're putting on an owner hat, and it's a totally different job.
Right. Sam Walton, most people don't know he started Walmart. He was actually in his 40s. But he famously said, I'm paraphrasing, I knew when I started a business I'd be wearing a lot of hats. I just didn't realize I'd be wearing them all at the same time. Right? We could all relate to that. And
Yeah.
that's the thing. As you change, listen, if you love being a DJ, or if you love being a florist, or if you love doing that and that's what you love doing, that's okay. That's okay. But if you want to grow a business, especially a business that you might be able to sell, right? It can't be about you personally performing that service, because when you're not there, what's the value that's left, right? Okay,
Agreed.
so there's that kind of scaling. When did Complete go horizontal and say, okay, we're not just going to be DJ, we're also going to be, and not just the ancillaries like lighting and stuff like that, but we're going to be photography, we're going to be video, photo booth, stuff like that. When did that happen?
So we had played with video for quite a few years. Matter of fact, we started, I want to say, in the 80s, even doing video. And at the time, it was VHS tape. So the cameras were like this big, right? And you had cassette, they actually went in the camera.
Yep.
And then the wires and the microphones and the battery packs were huge. So
And the
anyway,
lights, and the lights. We gotta have all the
yes.
big lights.
Yeah,
No
they were
LEDs.
small, no LEDs, no
No.
LEDs. So and they all had to be plugged in.
Yeah.
But at the time, then we went through VHS to beta to laser disc to
Super 8. Or
yes, all the different formats. So we kind of got out, and then we kind of got back into it a little bit. So we kind of were familiar, and our video product always sold really well because video at the time kind of came after DJ.
Right.
So that made sense for us. We had another company that's out there that's nationwide that provides photo, video, and DJ, and had for a long time. And they had actually encouraged us for years to do it. And we were a little concerned to do it just because we didn't want to step on any of our vendor friends on their toes. So we held back doing that. Well, in 2008, Complete has had increases every year since 74 till 2008. That recession in 2008 was, we felt, I know venues and other wedding people out there felt it too, because usually weddings are recession proof. And that's what we always say in the wedding business, right?
Yeah.
And people get married no matter what. Well, in 2008, Dad didn't have the money. The stock market went away. You know, it was really turbulent, and people were losing a lot of money. We were sending people off way out of our country for military reasons. And there was a lot of reasons that we ended up losing our market share. That was the first time ever we went down. And I'd love to say that we were like super strategic and we had planned it all out and that this is what we're going to do. But, you know, they say out of desperation comes innovation. And kind of like through the pandemic, the same thing, we had to pivot. So at the time we said, I think this is the time to start adding these services and becoming a wedding company rather than just a DJ service. And so that's kind of what led to that change, was really out of that desperation. And so it was funny because those 3 years, 2008 to 2010, we were Complete Music. We're Complete Music and Video. We're Complete Music, Video, and Photo. We're Complete Music, Video, Photo, and Photo Booth. I mean, and then we had all these logos. We were a branding mess. So we went to a marketing company and said, help us, please. So then we came up with the mark. So actually our mark is Complete Weddings and Events, and we have a play button. And then this is the actual bow tie from the original DJ from original logo. So
nice. Tying in the old and the new.
Yes.
Bringing in the old and the new. A little nod to the past there. Yeah, so many businesses are started in recessions out of necessity with that. And you know, I always said that the wedding business is recession resistant. I never said recession proof, but recession resistant. And 2008 was definitely one of those trying times. 2020 is just, you know, hopefully never again. Certainly not in our lifetimes, but hopefully never again, ever. Yeah. You know, when you're told you can't do a wedding, that's very different from, hey, the stock market went down, we don't have money. Or in the case of me, my son started college and his 529 plan went, you know, down the toilet with it. So I think was it 2019 I finished paying off his student loans? I don't tell you when I graduated it. Yeah, amazing. I had more money now because I finished paying those off. But the you know, the idea of scaling a business is it is a business. I think that's really the main thing here. There are so many people out there that have scaled in different ways. I have a client that has over 40 wedding venues around the country, and they use the same packages at every one of them. They could easily use different things in different parts of the country, and they've made a decision. Listen, this is what we do, and we do it really well. And when we go to another location, we use these same. You'll hear this on another episode. It's Wedgwood Weddings is the one that we use the same packages because this is what we can do. We can execute this really well. And here, there's always a tweak to the menu. There's somebody's going to have a little something different, just like the songs. You know, it's never about the music, right? And it really wasn't about the VHS camera that became the beta camera that became the this camera, whatever. And now, my gosh, you know, it's like here you go. Let me take my this camera. It's always about the operator. It's not about that. It's 100,000. Every DJ has access to the same songs. Your dad had access to what was on the reels, right?
Right.
Right. And then it was albums, and then CDs, and then right. And how many albums could you bring with you? How many CDs could you bring with you? Right. There was a limitation. Now the limitation is how's your bandwidth, right? I mean, that's really what your limitation is. So as someone grows the business, when you added those other services on there, what are some of the pain points? Maybe we'll just end on this. So we have the growing pains, the vertical growing pains, right? And then we have the horizontal pains. As you added on these services, it's now not hiring another DJ. Now you need videographers. Now you need photographers. Now you need photo booth operators. What were some of the challenges there?
Well, I think those of you that are watching will appreciate this. So for us, I look at ourselves as a franchisor and a franchise company, that our product is in the wedding field and it's video, photo, and DJ. And so when we started hiring, we knew how to hire DJs and train DJs, which, by the way, surprise, surprise, those aren't just normal people. Now, I can say that because I was a DJ, right? This
Takes
is
one
not,
to know one.
Right. I am one of you DJs. I did it for 10 years. And it is not your average typical type of individual. It's somebody that has a little bit of ego, likes to talk, likes to get in front of people, be the life of the party. And so we're used to hiring those kind of people. So we would have, Alan, these in each franchise. A given franchise usually has anywhere from 10 to 25 to 30 DJs. So they do these quarterly meetings. So then we add on these photographers, and the photographers come in, and we kind of joke about it because then you're mixing the photographers that come in, and I'm over indulging, but they have the scarf and they're very artistic. Right? Hello, and dressed a little bit nicer than the DJ, right? So they come in and they're coming in, and then the videographers come in and they don't talk to anybody. They're kind of looking around. So when we went to hire photographers and videographers, we're looking for the same personality trait, as the DJs. And that, videographers were the hardest for us because they're not talking. You can't go to a wedding and they speak, you know what I'm saying, but they're just not as outgoing as the others. So for us, we were having these quarterly meetings, and we get up there and we're like, yeah, just like the DJ conferences, right? Like somebody gets up there and like, what's going on? Everyone's like, woo! Like it's it's like some kind of concert, and the photographers are sitting there like, where are we? What's going on? And so I think for us, the hardest part was really because we love on our staff and we love on our teams. But what we found is photographers and videographers and DJs have different love languages. So we started, the videographers and photographers want to learn more about that trade. So do DJs, obviously, but they want to have fun together too and kind of let off some steam. Photographers are like, they want training and they want to look at the art of what they're doing and video
they're
too.
They're working on the craft. The videographers are very, very technical. The videographers are very technical. The photographers want to work on the craft. The DJs want to have a party while learning.
Yes.
While learning, we want to have a party. And the funny thing, I've spoken to photography groups, as far away as in India. I remember having 300-400 photographers, at an event in India. And same thing, they're all into their equipment, they're all into that stuff, and how did you shoot that, and all this kind of stuff. And they want to have a good time, but the videographers especially, they're very reflective, right? They're watching what's going on. They're not talking about it. That's what makes them so good, right? Is like, they're seeing stuff in a way that we don't see it, right? DJs, and I'm going to say this because so many have told me, a lot of DJs self-admitted have ADD, right? They have ADD. So getting you to focus, it's like, we need to have a party over here, so you're going to focus. Butterflies, squirrels, come on over here, right? And the videographers will capture all of that.
Yes.
They will capture all of that. They just won't be part of it.
Right.
Right? So this comes back to people again. Understanding what motivates those people, what kind of training do they need. Don't put everybody into the same bucket. And I think a really important thing is the way you learn is not the way other people learn, right? And you trying to teach somebody the way that you learn and they're not getting it and you're getting frustrated when it's just really a different they're a different person. They just learn differently than you. So it circles always back to people again. So people thinking about expanding their business, franchise versus not. If you're going to franchise your own business, what you're selling is those systems, and that's what you're selling. And if you haven't gotten your house in order, where you can't articulate and don't have that stuff down, there's nothing to sell, right?
Correct. Yeah, that's it. You said it best. I mean, starting and being organized and writing down all the standard operating procedures, putting together an owner's manual. You can't even legally start a franchise until you have an owner's manual. And the worst thing you can do, and I think you know this, Alan, is if you don't, one thing you said that's so true is if you don't have your house in order, if you're not profitable, if that business isn't profitable that you're trying to franchise and it's not working like a well-oiled machine, then expanding that just makes your life a lot harder because you've just expanded something that either doesn't make money or doesn't run efficiently.
Right. And the franchisors and the franchise organizations that fail are the ones that are just out there collecting franchise fees from people, but they're not giving back. They're not supporting them. You know, the more I support you, right, the more I water your flowers over there, the more that grows, the more it's better for me. You kind of touched on this a little earlier, which is taking the pride in the success of the franchisees, taking the pride in the success of your employees. You know, when I went from being a salesperson to a publisher to a regional sales director to a vice president of sales, you know, all of a sudden it was from me. I managed myself. And then all of a sudden I had 50, 60 people down underneath me. The more you sold, the prouder I was, right? I was like a parent. I don't want to minimize it, but it's the same with your kids, you know. If you can watch your kid score a goal in soccer and be like, oh, wow, so good for you. And if you can watch the other kids score goals and be proud for them, right? That's also good over there. So, Eric, thank you so much for joining and for sharing your wisdom over here. I do miss being out there with all the complete franchisees and the team because it is such a wonderful experience to be there. I do have some logo clothing. I was wearing my complete hat the other day, so thank you very much.
Yes.
I've worn it in many countries. You've seen. I've Instagrammed you in many countries wearing my complete hat there. So thank you. Anybody has any questions for you, I will put into the show notes. But if somebody wanted to find out more about Complete, do you have any openings for franchise markets?
Oh, sure. We're probably in half of the major markets, and we have quite a few markets that are open. And a lot of the franchises that we have, they're always looking. Our franchise system has 3 full-time people in every office. So you have your owner, then you have a sales manager and an operations manager. So we're always looking for full-time people or franchisees. So we would love to talk to anybody that would be interested in that.
And what would be a website that they would go to find out more?
Complete We Do, WEDO, CompleteWeDo.com.
CompleteWeDo.com. I will put that into the show notes. Thank you so much for joining me today. Anybody has any questions, reach out to Eric, and I look forward to seeing you at the next meeting where I can be there.
Yes, thank you, Alan, so much.
Thanks. Thanks for tuning in to this episode of the Wedding Business Solutions Podcast. Full transcripts of this and every episode are available on my website at alanberg.com. And if you have any questions about anything in this episode or any of the episodes, or you'd like to make a suggestion for a future topic or a guest for one of my dialogue episodes, you can email me directly at alan@weddingbusinesssolutions.com. Please subscribe to this channel, post a review if your platform allows it, and if you don't get email updates of the latest episodes, as well as upcoming workshops and masterclasses that I have, you can join at connectwithalanberg.com. I look forward to seeing you on a future episode. Thanks.